Okay, greetings, everyone. This is the November 19th, 2025 session of Fox Valley Drupal. And we've got Salim Lakhani here to show us DrupalForge. And we're going to just go ahead and kick right off. This will be recorded, is being recorded. If you don't want to see yourself, turn off your video. And we run with the Drupal Code of Conduct, so keep that in mind. And follow us on the MidCamp Slacks or in the US Central Time Zone channel on Drupal Slack. And there we go. So with that, I'm gonna hand it over to you, Salim.
All right, great. So I'm Salim. I go by Sal. You'll see me on the Drupal Slack as Sal. Let me say all the bad words first so we can get that out of the way. Okay. All right. So DrupalForge. Thanks for inviting me, Bob. Thanks for having me over. This is a project that was started by Darren O out of Florida. So if you guys know Darren, he's to blame for all of that. He came to me at one of the Drupal cons, and this was a few years ago. I think the one right before the pandemic, and he's like, "Hey, I want to do this where you have templates and developers." It was basically a marketplace. He's like, developers can upload, people can create stuff and they can sell it and they can make a living. So they can, a lot of people are doing contributions and they should be able to make a living out of it. And he's like, can we do this? And on DevPanel, is the whole thing behind DrupalForge is all DevPanel. He's like, can we do this on DevPanel? And my thing was, I've started a lot of things with other people, and then I get stuck with it. So I was like, you got to stay with it. And I've known him for a while, I've known you guys for a while. So I was like, if you're going to stick with it, then we can do it. But as soon as you drop out, I'm dropping out. So I'll help you. And then so he's stuck with it. And so it's his project. And I do the technical bit on the back end, but he basically, it was his idea, and he created, he did a lot of work on this. So
Are you sharing your screen going to?
Oh, let me share my screen.
Oh, there you go.
Can you see my screen?
We are getting there. Yes, we can.
All right, very good. So this is DrupalForge. The name was lifted from Laravel Forge. So I like taking names from other things that already exist, like DevPanel was lifted from cPanel. So kind of like, so this is, it's got different templates here, and these templates are contributed by a lot of by other developers, by different agencies, by trainers. And then the Drupal AI team does all their development here as well. So this first template that you see was contributed by and is managed and is still maintained by Jamie and Marcus from FreelyGive. So if you go over here, you'll see my interview with Marcus, and he walks us through the entire template and shows me like what's in it and how you work it and so on. So I'm going to pause this. But then this is essentially a ChatGPT breakdown of my talk. And this is by FreelyGive. And then you'll see the Florida Drupal camp template that was built by Bernardo, and then he walks us through on how to use that. So if you want to see how that site was built, you can go through that one. The OpenY template is here, and this is pretty much open source template, so we just made a copy of it. This is Next Drupal. This is a headless Drupal site, so you can actually demo and set up headless Drupal sites in here as well.
Cool.
And then there's different core versions of Drupal as well. So you got the Drupal CMS, you have 11, you have 10. I think there's 7 here as well somewhere. So if you wanted to, maybe they took it off. Oh, Drupal 7 here. So if you wanted to go back and try something on Drupal 7, like there was no easy way to go try something on Drupal 7, because there's so many other sites there that have. So if you wanted to go try it, you can still do that. There is, Umami, CiviCRM, Drupal for Gov website. That's their conference website, and Backdrop. I'm a big fan of Backdrop. So if people are still on Drupal 7 and they want to go, you don't want to upgrade to Drupal 10, then consider going to Backdrop. It's a nice community there. And so Drupal Canvas, you guys want to play with that, that's there. And then Civic Theme for Gov and for Higher Ed. This is the Australian GovCMS. Automated testing kit. This is actually integrated with AWS on the back end. Gemini and Cloud Code. If you don't want to install Gemini and Cloud Code on your local computer, you can actually do development with Gemini and Cloud Code right here. Online. LocalGov. This is like GovCMS, but for folks in UK. And there's some other things here. GovCMS, this is, and other things are contributed by different developers. So I don't even know. It's the event starter platform. I think this is by Martin. Yeah, this is Martin's template.
Mm-hmm.
And then GovCMS is a template for, essentially is WCAG compliant and US WDS compliant, and for government sites out of the box, all the compliance is there on this site, on this template. So a lot of these templates are here. The AI templates, so these are we're just scratching the surface. There's a lot of hidden templates as well. AI templates come with AI key built in. So you don't have to install your own key. You can actually start using it. But we have a key slicer on the back end. And the key slicer puts in a $1 key in each of the AI containers, in each of the AI templates. So the most damage you can cause us is $1, basically. So, and if you don't use it, we're not using up the $1. So if you go to DrupalForge.org/AI, right? Oops. You see, yeah. So you see a lot of these templates that are by QED42. QED42 is a company out of India, and they've shifted their focus, a lot of their focus to AI. So they've built all these different templates. All of them were essentially spun off of this one, and these are all the AI templates. So this is Canvas AI, this is AI Automator, this is LocalGov. Well, this one they didn't build, but I think Jamie's team built this. This is LocalGov with AI. LocalGov with AI is interesting because if you try and upload an image that does not meet image standards and stuff like that, it'll reject that image. If you try and submit content that has like obscenities in it, then curse words in it, then it won't accept that content. So it has moderation built into it for image moderation and content moderation built in. So I think that's very good. There's a testing framework, and if you go in here, I think there's a video in here. So Jamie walks you through on how this works. So you can see how AI testing works. And if you go into any of these, like AI translation or AI OCR or AI web scraper, there are videos for each of these. So you can see how this is built and how to use it. And what I say is, to learn something, you want to watch the video, you can spin up the template, and you can go access the code. You can see how the code was built, and that will give you, they'll show you enough so that you can duplicate that on your own website. Okay, so it's a very good way to learn, and I just want to take this opportunity to thank QED42 for all the stuff that they've done here. So, good on them. AI, SEO, compliance and accessibility, content moderation, RAG. They built a whole system for RAG as well. So a lot of these things you can do here that can be used to learn AI really well. Yeah. And they're very well segmented, tightly segmented. So let me actually show you a demo of the things you can do with it. You guys ready for a demo?
Sure.
Okay. And I will encourage you to follow along. Okay. So you can do this. So from the home page, click into Drupal AI. This is Drupal CMS with AI built into it. Okay. So let's go ahead and click into that. And then you can solve the math puzzle. I have trouble with it sometimes.
1 plus 0. That's a hard one.
Yeah. Well, don't say it out loud, Bob. Okay, so I'm gonna launch this, and tell me how fast your site launches. Okay, so let me see how fast this launches. So I'm gonna click on Express Launch, and I don't know what it took, like 3 seconds, 3 seconds to launch. So this launches pretty fast. So you've got your Drupal site built. Depending on if we have capacity or not. I think they increased the capacity because DrupalCon Nara is going on. So they've increased the capacity because folks there are going to be using this as well. So notice I'm not logged in. Okay, so I'm just as an anonymous user. I've come over here and I've got myself a running Drupal, and I can copy and paste the username and password. So I can come over here, I can say login, and it's admin. And like I was saying before, is that this one comes built with, the key is pre-configured in each of these. So each container gets a separate key in here. So I can actually come into the assistant and I can say, so I can start chatting with it. I can have it do stuff. So every time I do this, I actually get a different answer. So now you can actually have a chat with it, and you can have it do whatever, all the AI stuff works. And even for the dollar, we're using the 4.0 mini model, so it's not very expensive. It's not highly accurate, but it's not very expensive either. So you can actually have it do a lot of stuff for that dollar. It goes a long way. The other thing I want to point out is that when you start this demo, you get it for an hour. And after an hour, this site is going to get deleted unless you extend it. Okay. To extend it, you can just click on this clock icon, and then it gives you another hour. Okay. And then if you try and extend it more, it says, hey, wait a second, you got to log in now. So you get 1 hour extension for free. If you want to extend it more, you got to log in. Okay. But without even logging in, let me show you what else you get as an anonymous user. Okay. You also get a cloud dev environment. So you toggle this on, and here's your VS Code. And this is VS Code in a browser. I'm going to copy the password. I'm going to open up VS Code in a browser. That's where the password goes.
You had that in DevPanel, as I recall.
Right. And it's interesting that you say that, because everything that we're using here is DevPanel. Okay. So DrupalForge is just a shell around DevPanel.
Oh.
DevPanel has an API layer, and DrupalForge is like an open source project that uses all the DevPanel features and functionality using the API layer. So you can take the DrupalForge project and you can create your own marketplace or whatever you want to do with it, template store. You can use it inside companies. You can, build your own DrupalForge or build your own, dare I say, site factory using this for free. Okay, so this is VS Code in a browser. Are you guys familiar with VS Code?
Well,
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So it has a terminal built in. And this file tree over here is like SCP or SFTP. You can drag and drop files here from your desktop. And if you right-click on something, you'll see, that you can download these files as well. Okay, so this works just like SCP or SFTP. Now that you have your terminal running, I can actually, let me increase the font size here. You'll see that we have Composer built into it. Hi, Nora, long time.
Hello.
So we've got Composer built in, and we've got Drush built in. Okay, so Composer and Drush are pre-installed for you, so you can start doing development right away without installing anything, or everything you can do on the web. Now, let me also show you something. I'm going to go in the index.php, and I'm not a developer, so I'm going to show you my cheap demo that you guys are going to laugh. This is the only demo I can do. So I can go in here and I can say PHP info, and yeah. Now notice that I'm not saving this, and I'm not committing it. And then I'm going to go to the Drupal instance. I'm going to refresh the page, and I see PHP info. Yeah. So this is like your local dev environment. It's a live editor. It works just like a local dev environment, but it's in the cloud. Now, if I comment this out, and I go back to this and I refresh this page, what do you think is going to happen? I'm taking bets here.
Drupal site comes up, right?
Let's see it. Yeah, you win. Who was that?
Bill,
All right, that's 100 points to you.
Yeah.
that in a quarter you can get a cup of coffee. No, it's not anymore.
All right. So does this make sense so
Yes.
far?
Yeah.
Okay. Now we're doing all of this. You get all of this capability without even logging in, okay, without even registering.
Or
So
no.
we get a lot of anonymous users every day. We get over 100 spin-ups a day. And I mean, we know their IP address, but that's pretty much all we know. Right. And then we get some signups. Okay. Now, after 2 hours, what happens? Is anybody paying attention here? What happens after 2 hours?
Delete gone.
Site gets deleted because we don't know who you are.
Yeah, that
Right?
makes sense. You haven't given us anything. We don't even know who you are. Yeah,
Right.
get rid
But
of it.
if we do know who you are, then we don't delete your site. We pause it. And you can keep coming back to it for up to 30 days and restart it and keep working on it. Okay. So how do we get to know who you are?
Set up a login.
Exactly. So I can say save, or I can say register and login. If I say save, it says it takes me to the login page, and it's very easy. Okay. I recommend doing Google single sign-on.
Would my old DevPanel stuff still work? Maybe.
Maybe. You
Good
could try it.
It's okay. It's okay if it doesn't. My feelings aren't hurt.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so now after I saved it, I got another hour for free. Okay. And if I go under my apps, okay, now that I'm logged in, okay, so I'm logged in, it knows who I am. Okay, and I can go under my apps and I can see that I have this running. And for my last 2 demos, I have these 2 instances paused. Okay. I can expand this and I can get more information on application ID and all the other information here. I can go to the workspace. If I click on this, it takes me to DevPanel and I get all the other functionality. And there's all kinds of other cool stuff here. So I'm going to go back and I can still, now this save button changed to the manage button. Okay. Now, if I click on manage, it drops me into DevPanel. This is all single sign-on. Okay, so I don't have to log in again. In DevPanel, this is the URL for this application. Okay, that's the same URL. I click on it. It's basically the same thing. And this is my VS Code that we had opened up from here. This is that VS Code. And that's what I was talking about, that's the API layer that we're using on DrupalForge. And now you get all this power for free to use. Okay. We're still using it for free, but you're getting all this functionality after you register. From here, you can force a pause. And after you pause it, this button turns to unpause, right? It's not resume, it's unpause. So, and then you can actually extend this. You can keep extending this to up to 12 hours. Okay. And this is like a gas tank. So when you get to 12 hours, You can't go any further than that. So now it gives you an error. But now if you drop down to like 8 hours or 10 hours or something, you can come back over here and you can fill up the gas tank. Okay. But after this time expires, what happens? The site just gets paused instead of getting deleted. Okay. Oh, the other thing to remember, you have 30 days, but you have to use it. You have to keep using it. So if there's no activity for 7 days, it gets deleted. Okay. So there has to be some activity there because it costs us to save this. All right, so there's the activity tab here, and I'll show you how the activities gets updated. So you can go into backup. Say you did some work on this and you want to now download this and work on it on DDev, right? So the perfect way, the easiest way to do that, you go into backups and you say, I want to do my manual backup, and check all and create your backup. And this will give you your source, your database, and your files, all of those things that you can download. Okay. And now if you go under activities, you'll see that all those things are running, getting backed up separately. And if I go into one of these, it's just a streaming log of all these things. If you want, you can also set up a webhook. So if you're working locally on the site, our source of truth is this repo. Okay. Now, this repo is right now is read-only, but if you had connected this to your own repo, and if you set up a webhook, then if you work locally, you could set up a repo, so when you or a webhook, so when you update the repo, the container on the web automatically gets updated. The webhook is there. Not a lot of people use it, but it's there for you to use it. Configuration. If you want to see, okay, for folks that are running, for our customers that are running, for DevPanel users that are running DevPanel on their own clusters, they can change the size of the container. DrupalForge users cannot, because this costs us money. So each application has a particular size container that we've optimized it for. So we don't let you change the size of the container. But you can come over here and change the version of PHP. So if there's something you're testing and you want to see if it's going to work with the new version of PHP, for example, right? You can do that. You can come over here and you can pick out a new version of PHP. And this is PHP with Redis. Or you can pick PHP with mod security, which is a WAF. Yeah. So you can do things like that. And you can say, okay, I want PHP with, so these are different images that you can use. And you can see if your site works with it. You can also enable and disable PHPMyAdmin. If you enable it, then you can go to the overview page and this becomes active. PHPMyAdmin takes up a lot of resources and is notoriously bad for security. So anytime you turn it on, we put a timer on it and then we turn it off. Okay. So we don't want you to keep PHPMyAdmin running all the time.
Can you use other tools like SQLace?
I'm sorry?
Can you use a different tool, say like SQLace, if you want an interface for the database?
There is, if you want to interface with the database, there is an extension for VS Code that allows you to, MySQL client.
Okay.
That allows you to interface with the database. And this, I actually like this better than PHPMyAdmin. But you have to do a little bit of configuration for this to use this. All right. Let me show you what else you can do here. So you can actually attach custom domains to this. And if you attach a custom domain, we will get the SSL certificate for you, and we'll maintain that for you. And you can attach multiple custom domains. Doesn't really matter. This is your Apache error access and error log. And when you are working on the main branch, for example, you can add collaborators, and those collaborators will have access to work with you on the main branch only. Okay? But you could be working on other branches. So, and there could be other branches as well. So if you add collaborators at this level, at the higher level, then those collaborators can have access to all the branches. And if you add a collaborator at even a higher level, then they get access to all the projects and all the branches. So there's different levels of security that's built in for collaboration. For security, you can turn on and turn off the htaccess lock or a simple access lock or basic authentication. There's like different names for it, so I say them all. And it's just a basic username and password, and this is what the Apache puts up before it even serves the index page. And this is interesting. Okay, we used to have this on strict permissions, because with strict permissions, to update Drupal modules, you would have to have access to Composer or Drush or whatever, you know. You'd have to have access to the command line. But everybody used to complain. Everybody complained. They wanted to update modules using the Drupal UI, admin UI, which is not very secure. But since everyone complained, then we added this option. So it's looser security, and that's the default now. But for production sites, for big production sites, we always still recommend that you do this and you keep it at strict security. And then if you're using DrupalForge and you create something nice, and people do this, they create something and they want to save it after 30 days. We don't offer hosting today. After 30 days, what do you do with it? Right? So you have a couple of options. You can connect a VPS here. So you can go get a VPS from AWS Lightsail or DigitalOcean and connect your VPS here. And you can push this site to the VPS, and we will containerize the site and we'll set it up for you on your VPS. Then you can go get Cloudflare or whatever else and set up your own hosting on that VPS. Serve your site from that VPS. Okay. So that's one way of doing it. And you can actually attach multiple VPSs. And over time, you can deploy your site to multiple VPSs if you want to. Or you can export your site to a template. And this is great for if you create something, you want to share it with your colleagues, if you're working in a team. So the templates don't have to be public. Okay? So you can create a private template and share it with your colleagues. And this is how schools and universities and enterprise companies will use this. They'll create a template for internal use. You have your privacy policy, you have your cookie policy, terms and condition, you'll have your theme and all this stuff set up. You'll have different types of templates. For a school, you'll have a student template, a professor template, and department template, and so on. So you can create different templates for internal use and publish it for internal use. Or you can create a template and you can publish it to be used on a site like DrupalForge and then share it with the world. Okay. So this is how you start off a template. There's other steps after you click on create. Then you get to say like, okay, who do you want to share it with, and how do you want to save it, and so on. Yeah. And then danger zone is
Any logins.
deletes your site. Are you guys familiar with tag-based deployments?
Yes.
Are you? Yeah, so this, you could do tag-based deployments here as well. Mostly it's our bigger customers that do tag-based deployments, but if you do tag-based deployments, you can actually do blue-green deployments with it as well. So then it gets a little enterprisey, but you can do that here as well. That only works with tag-based deployments. There's a secret manager built in. And have you guys worked with secret managers before?
Pantheon, yeah,
Oh, really? They have a secret manager?
I think so. That's what we
Okay.
do. We call it secrets. I don't know.
Yep,
Right.
and
Environment,
Upsun too.
environment variables and whatnot.
Yeah, environment variables. Okay. So what we do is in the settings file, we don't hard code any passwords or keys or anything like that. We just have variables.
Great.
So as your code moves from develop to testing to live, production, or main branch, all the files remain the same, but the secret set, those key value pairs that have the database username and the database pointer and the bucket pointer and the files pointers, all those things can change as your code moves from one level to another, right? So that secret set, you can actually create a secret set here. So you give it a name and then you create key value pairs. So your DB database username, database password, all that stuff will be here, created for you differently.
Yeah, we use .env files.
You do env files?
Yeah.
Cool. Who's your host?
We do it on our own
Your own.
AWS right now, but
Cool.
we're moving to Pantheon, so we won't have.
Yeah, I think Pantheon's secrets is, I can't remember if it's changing. They're doing something else, but currently today we use secrets with Pantheon. Again, it's environment as it moves through, like just what you said, but
I would think Acquia does something similar.
oh man.
Can you guys speak louder so I can hear it too?
Yeah, we were
You
just
guys are
talking
having
about
Their own
secrets and
sidebar.
and
They're having
environment.
secrets.
I can't remember, boy, it's been 2 years now and all my Acquia knowledge is gone. I can't remember what we did for variables for environment to environment.
And all our deployments there were, tag based, which I'm
Yeah.
sure is what Pantheon does too. But we're just using we use the .env module on Drupal, and then we create .env files on each of our environments, and those
Yeah.
store those variables, and it's picked up with a PHP file that you add, with an auto loader. But anyway, I don't want to sidebar us.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's
Acquia does do what you were thinking about. They have a set of variables you can set per environment
yeah.
on the cloud UI.
This is a good way of doing it, actually. This is very flexible, and it gives us a lot of flexibility with not just with Drupal. We do a lot of other applications too. So we support a lot of other applications. So this,
Yeah, I mean, that's great that you have a standard, that's being used elsewhere. It's familiar for folks, and
yeah,
I'm sure that each of these things, different folks have kind of looked for, to see that they could use on DrupalForge, and it's good to see that a lot of these features are similar or familiar.
yeah. This VS Code extensions page was by special request from Mike Anello, because he was doing training classes, and he's like, well, I want these extensions to be preloaded by default for some classes, but some other things loaded by default for some other classes. So now we have this, and then you can check off what you want loaded for per project.
Yeah,
So
I see his favorite set of plugins
right,
in your list there.
right. Yeah, he specified all the stuff that he wanted. So, and then we dropped in our own, like Klein is a AI developer, and then there's WordPress snippets and Laravel things and so on.
I know you had mentioned the MySQL client one here previously, but I wonder if you're allowing remote DB access. So meaning I have a DB app on my local machine, and I can connect to the DB on here. Is that possible?
So up until today, I would say no. Today, I found out that people are already doing this on our system, unbeknownst to me. So apparently there's a way to do it. And if Darren was here, he would tell you this is how you do it. So he has it documented somewhere on how to do that. Remotely connect using SSH. If you're using VS Code locally, you can actually connect your VS Code local to your site running in DevPanel or DrupalForge, and you can. It's just a SSH tunnel. So if you're using whatever tools you're using locally, you could just use SSH tunneling to connect to this container. And then once you're in the container, then you can access the database. You can access whatever, because the container is connected to the database. So.
Right.
But until today, I didn't know this till today. So I was like, really? You can do that? So, yeah. Because I get that question a lot. Like I used to get that question a lot. I always said no. So. Anyways, when you add a collaborator, like I was telling you guys earlier, you can add a collaborator as a maintainer or as a developer. So if you add a collaborator as a maintainer, then they get access to all the branches automatically. If you add them as a developer, then you have to go branch by branch and you have to add that person to whatever branch you want them to have access to. And then this is activities across all the different branches and who did what. So it's just an audit trail. And then there is in the back end, there's some, this is more enterprisey, but there's a base registry. You can change the registry. Right now, DrupalForge and DevPanel uses our own registry where all these images are. But our enterprise clients, they have their own registry because they have images that are signed and they're authorized and they're scanned, pre-scanned images, and those are the only images they can use. So if they have their own registry, then they can connect their own registry here. And then if you have your own CI/CD pipeline or CI/CD provider, Circle CI or Jenkins or something like that, then you can use that. And that's used to build images. So then we build, you can build dynamic images and pull that into the system. So this is all like enterprisey stuff. Nobody usually touches this stuff. And then what else do I want to show? Okay, so this is, you have access to all of this once you get into DevPanel, even as DrupalForge users. Not many people use it because they don't know about it. So I'm going to just tell you. But any questions so far? Let me just go back. Taking questions. Oh, let me show you something kind of cool. Okay. Think of questions to ask. Okay, I'll give you a little time. our source of truth is always the repo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? If I click on the repo, this is our source of truth. And you see that this repo has two branches, main and develop, right?
Right.
But if I come over here, I only see main. Right? So if I want to see the other branches, then I have to say sync all branches. Oh, I get an error. So that error is because my token has expired. Is I have to say refresh token, or I could have gone in my account and I could have put in my token here for my personal access token for GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket. Yeah. So since I don't have any of those personal access tokens set up, what I'll do is I'll just refresh my token, and refreshing the token will give me like 4 hours of access. Yeah. So I'm going to click that. There's another window that popped up outside that you guys can't see. Now it says refreshed. Now when I say sync all, it says syncing. And now I see develop. Okay. So even as DrupalForge users, when you're working on main, you can actually go out and develop. You can build out a develop branch as well. When you do the develop branch, it'll ask you, you want to deploy the develop branch, it'll ask you, where do you want to take the database, files, and configuration from? And you can say build it from scratch or copy it from a running application. And the only running application I have is what? Main. On the main branch, I have an application running that has a database, it has files, and it has configuration. When I click next, it's just going to clone main using this code base. I can lock the site by default. So when it starts up, it's locked automatically. Nobody can have access to it. And I can change, it doesn't let me change the image here, but I can change the image, reset app root, change the container information, enable, disable PHPMyAdmin, and deploy it. Now, when I deploy this, since I'm cloning the main branch, this takes anywhere from like 7 to 10 minutes because it has to zip up the database, download it, zip up the files, download it, do all the other stuff. And then when it creates the new environment, it has to overwrite the files, overwrite the database. It does do all the other stuff with it. So this process takes a little while to do that. But that's how you can actually create, and you can create as many branches as you want. So you can create test branches, feature branches. You can do trunk-based development or GitFlow. You can follow whatever team development you want. And then you can, again, you can invite team members and have a branch for each team member if you want.
I think you answered my question, but just to reiterate, you're saying that you can have only certain members be able to access the develop branch versus the main branch? Because I mean, a lot of folks like to lock down the main branch, right? To only authorized people. Okay.
Yeah. We've had that problem where people come in and you bring in contractors and they overwrite the main branch. So yeah. Okay. Questions on any of this stuff?
Say you're using Solar for search, which requires a separate server. Can you set Solar search up on DrupalForge instance?
Yeah, good question. So everything we used here in DrupalForge is enterprise grade. So the entire DevPanel project was sponsored by like enterprise companies originally. So we use everything, all the services that we use on the back end are managed services. So we started by AWS and with AWS, And the Kubernetes that we use is managed Kubernetes. The database that we use is AWS RDS, which is managed database cluster. The file system, every single thing that we use is managed by AWS. Okay. We say we give people 99.99% uptime, but outside of the ridiculous AWS outage and stuff like that, outside of those things, sites have been like 100% uptime, right? Because managed Kubernetes does not go down. Managed databases don't go down. So outside of those, the AWS outage that takes off half the internet, and then outside of, I should say, scheduled downtime that we need for doing patches and upgrades and things like that, we haven't had, well, customer sites haven't, this infrastructure has not gone down. So when you say, can we have Solar, and can we have Redis, and can we have this, you can have anything, because the way DevPanel runs is, for our customers, DevPanel runs in their account. So we recommend, you can roll your own Solar, but we recommend that you get managed Solar, so that then you never have to wake up, you never have to worry about it going down, or somebody else is managing it for you, and that's their full-time job, is to manage it for you. So Solar, we recommend using OpenSearch. In AWS, it's called OpenSearch, but there are other companies that sell Solar type of search as service. And Redis, in AWS, I forget what it's called. I think Elasticsearch or something. But those things are available as managed services. So I always recommend that we use those as managed services. And they're available on DigitalOcean, and all the big providers have those as managed services. So.
And you can configure SAML too. Okay.
Yeah. So we use. You're talking about authentication, right? Like login, single sign-on. Yeah. So on the back end, you saw that we logged in with Google single sign-on, right?
Yep.
What we use for ourselves is AWS Cognito. Okay. AWS Cognito is a single sign-on provider, like Ping Identity or Active Directory or something like that, right? So, but it can integrate with a lot of other providers. So if for companies that have their own DevPanel cluster and their own DevPanel instance, they can just integrate with their own provider, their own single sign-on provider. So, yeah. What other questions do you have? You're asking all enterprisey questions.
Those were my two questions.
Okay. Let me also show you. So this is all the application screen. Okay. If you go up one level, we're inside a workspace. In a workspace, you can have many different projects. Each project is tied to a repo. Okay. And as you know, each repo can have multiple branches. So you can have multiple projects. If you are managing a customer, right, and you just want to use the same project, but you have different customers, you can do that. Because every application here gets its own database and gets its own file space, but they're all pointing to the same repo.
I got a question there. Can any of these projects be Drupal multi-site applications with many different databases.
I'll show you. I'll do even better than multi-site.
Okay.
So let me show you. So you can start a project from scratch, but the best way is to start a project from a template.
Yep.
So we have a lot of these templates here, and most of these show up on DrupalForge. Some of them don't, because like WordPress is not going to show up on DrupalForge because it's not Drupal.
It's not Drupal.
Neither is Joomla, and there's some other things here. So, okay, but for each of these, you see that there is a deploy and a develop button, right? Okay, so this is where I tell you I think, and I'm biased, but I think this is better than a multi-site. Okay, and I'll tell you why I think it's better. Okay, when you click on deploy, it gives you, it's pointing to a shared repo, but it gives you a container and a file space, and essentially it creates a site for you, but points to the same repo. And you can create as many sites as you want, pointing to the same repo, but each of them are individual. So when you update that repo, right, you can then push those updates to all those sites if you want. So you can push those updates to any of those sites that you want, and you can push them en masse, or you can push them one at a time. But all those sites look like their own individual sites. You don't have to manage that one file and all the other, you don't have to mess with all the multi-site stuff. All of them point to the same repo. Now, if you click on develop, right, it gives you a copy of the repo. So now if you change something in the container, you have a copy of the repo connected to that container. So when you can actually commit it back. When you're doing develop, you're getting a read-only copy. You're getting a container and a file space and a database, everything from that template. But you can't write back to it. You can have whatever you manage as an admin, you can make changes to that base template, and then you can push it out to hundreds of sites that were created from that base. Right? But when you do develop, you get your own copy of this template. And then you can do whatever you want with it. Does that make sense?
I think it does, and I think this might be similar to, say, Acquia's view of multi-site Drupal versus Pantheon's. Pantheon is also one where you'll have multiple upstreams rather than having the single upstream that Acquia might have. So it sounds like DevPanel, what your philosophy is similar to the way Pantheon views multi-sites.
Yeah, I don't know those systems, but I'll tell you the reason we set it up like this is because this system works with every single type of application. It works with WordPress, it works with Joomla, it works with headless applications, it works with you name it. This system works with any type of application. So it's very flexible in that way. And we don't have to worry about, this is how Drupal does things, So
Neat.
yeah. And then there's other stuff here that I don't think I'm going to go into, and then there's, clusters and all this other infrastructure that you can manage, but I'm not going to go into that either. So, one thing is interesting to know. And again, as users, you also have access to this, but you can actually create workspaces as well. So as a DrupalForge user, you have access to this workspace. But as once you use DrupalPod, now there's a DrupalPod, the new version of DrupalPod also runs on DrupalForge. So if you create DrupalPod containers, then you get this workspace, and your DrupalPod containers live in this workspace, and they have different properties. Okay, but workspaces are like they're a collection of projects essentially. And if you were to set it up, oh, so we made DevPanel free, by the way. So now you can use DevPanel for your clients and, you know, for your business, for your agency. And as a business, you can use DevPanel internally for free. Most of our money up till now was coming from support contracts and from SLAs, so that to us, it really didn't matter if we made it free or not. So we just made it free. And this becomes like a lead generation for how we actually made money. So now you can, and a lot more agencies are using this now too. So you can use this with your clients, but if you're using this with your client, then you can set up each client as a separate workspace, right? Or you can set up all your clients in the same workspace. The difference is when you invite a team to a workspace, they will see everything in that workspace, but the teams cannot cross over workspaces. So if you're working with a client and you want client to have access to that workspace, then you have to set up clients separately in separate workspaces. So it's always easier to just set up, but those workspaces, all these workspaces can point to the same account in the same cluster, or they can point to separate accounts in or separate clusters. So you can set up if your customer wants to use their own cluster and their own account, then you just create a separate workspace and you point it to their account. Now you're actually managing their sites and using their resources. You can do that. So, all right, that was my deep dive into DevPanel as well as DrupalForge. And DrupalForge is just a shell around DevPanel. So everything that you see here this is all behind the scenes. All the heavy lifting is done by DevPanel. And DrupalForge is a Drupal site itself, and it's open source. So if you want to take this and you want to push it into a company, and a company wants their own templates, or a university and they want their own templates, you can do that. You can set it up for them. Because now DevPanel is free and DrupalForge is free. So you can set up a university with all their templates. You can set up an enterprise business with all their templates. And then they can spin up their templates and they can have, be happy. What we are adding, I'll tell you what's on the roadmap. As a developer, you will be able to sell templates, and you'll be able to charge people for templates. And as a developer, you'll be able to sell hosting through DrupalForge. So if you want to sell hosting, then we will manage the hosting for you, but you will get a cut of the hosting. Or you can manage it yourself in your own cluster. You can actually connect your own cluster and do all the hosting and take the majority of the money. We still get a small cut of it. So that's what's coming down the pipeline. And that's it. What questions do you guys have?
I have a couple questions, Liam.
Shoot.
Speaking of templates, so in the context of DevPanel and exporting templates, we're talking about a template that can only be used through DrupalForge or DevPanel, correct?
As of yet, today, yes.
Okay. Yeah, we're not talking, at least right now, about the sort of broader Drupal initiative in the marketplace sort of initiative to do
it's-
templates, correct?
It's interesting that you brought it up, because what we're
Wonderful.
thinking is that we will put in the functionality so that if you set up a template here, you'll be able to export it to the Drupal Marketplace template as well. So we will connect this to the Drupal Marketplace. So if you set it up here, not only will you be able to sell things here, you'll be able to sell things on the marketplace as well.
So it is already using a standard that is a templating standard that the Drupal Marketplace is going to be using? Is that what you mean?
I don't know what they're using, but
Oh,
we
okay.
are, you know, it's all it is, a script. So whatever standard they're using, we will just push it to whatever standard they want to use.
Oh, okay. Once it becomes a thing, then you intend on also having that be as an option through the export template process. Gotcha. Okay. The other question I had was thinking about DevPanel workspaces and access level through teams. Let's say I have a bunch of clients on one workspace, and all of it, through my AWS or through the DevPanel or DrupalForge provided AWS. And at one point, they decide to, data sovereignty, they want their own AWS, whatever. So is there an option through the DevPanel to transfer those things into their own a certain collection of projects, let's say, into a separate workspace? Or would that be a manual, I don't want to call it a migration, but would that be more of a set up a new thing and copy pasta in the back end?
Yeah.
Download, upload, all that.
Yeah, it's a good question. We've gone through that process, not too many times, but a few times. And we can try and do it the automated way, like try and automate some of it, but it's too risky. So you can automate some of it, but ultimately you have to do it. We don't do it that often that we built automation for it. So some portions of it can be automated, but it's like if a company had like 700 sites, right? We would definitely automate that. We would go in and automate that. But until now, we haven't had that situation. We've had people that had a few sites and they wanted to move. So we did most of it by hand, and some of it we had to write scripts for. But there's no click, there's no button that says move it over.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and usually when we move it over, it's not just, oh, they're moving from one AWS account to another. It's been like, oh, they're moving from AWS to DigitalOcean, right? Because DigitalOcean costs, half as much or even third as much as AWS. So DigitalOcean is much cheaper. And they could be moving from AWS to Azure because now their company standard changed and everybody's moving to Azure. So those are the type of moves that we've been involved in. So it's not just a simple like, oh, go from AWS one account to another. It's been more complicated things.
Okay, thank you.
But good questions, yeah.